This is a man that needs no introduction. Buakaw, two-time winner of the K-1 Max and international superstar in the Muay Thai and kickboxing world. He has become a cultural icon in combat sports over nearly 2 decades, fighting internationally against many elite fighters, whilst proudly representing Thailand and their national sport, Muay Thai. In this video we'll look at Buakaw's introduction to the world stage, where he first burst onto the kickboxing scene, the 2004 K-1 Max. We will look at the Muay Thai skills and tactics he utilised to win his bouts in such dominant fashion. Sit back, enjoy, and if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe. Prior to the 2004 K-1 Max, Buakaw was little known outside of Thailand. He had collected several belts fighting in Bangkok, but the 70 kg weight class in Thailand is a much thinner talent pool, and most of the fighters that end up at this weight had their heydays lighter and in their early 20s. Buakaw's highest ranking was number 2 in the famed Lumpinee stadium, and at the time he would have been small for the 70 kg division, especially with the Japanese weighing in fighters 48 hours before their belts at this time. This would have given some of the Westerners a big physical advantage, as they would have cut a lot of weight and then rehydrated and eaten over those 48 hours to be much bigger than the 70 kg weight limit. The first K-1 Max was in 2002 and won by Dutch fighter Albert Kraus. The second, in 2003, was won by beloved Japanese fighter Masato, who defeated previous winner Kraus in their rematch by knockout, and he was now the tournament favourite. In his first fight of the 2004 K-1 Max, Buakaw had drawn the now legendary Australian John Wayne Parr.
優勝候補がいきなり激突。開幕戦一撃必殺の右ストレートで強豪ラドウィックから3度のダウンを奪い、マサトに衝撃を与えた男。豪州最強の暴れ馬ジョン・ウェイン・パー。この男の強さには理由がある。
I think Masato and Kahi are good fighters. They're lucky that they're single, but at the same time, I think having a family.
そう、彼の傍らにはいつも家族の姿があった。2年前の結婚以来、家族が戦うモチベーションになったというジョン・ウェインは、昨年娘のジャスミンちゃんが生まれてからはなんと無敗。家族への思いを胸に頂点を狙う。もう一人の優勝候補はタイの奥地からやってきたこの男、ブアカーオ・ボー・プラムック。世界最高峰の足技で連戦連勝、ムエタイ王国タイの頂点に君臨するブアカーオ。彼にはどうしても負けられない理由があった。過去2大会タイ代表はいずれも敗北、3連敗は許されない。
ดีใจก็อยากได้แชมป์ K1 เพราะว่ามีชื่อเสียงและก็ดังทั่วโลก
3 fights for 3 knockouts and prove to all of Japan and all of the world that I am the best in the world.
優勝候補同士による壮絶サバイバルマッチ。生き残るのはどっちだ。ブアカーオはウォーミングアップとは思えないほど出場選手、そして格闘技専門誌など、ブアカーオの弱点はパンチと見ていたのか、試合前はパンチの練習に重きを置いていた。
As the K-1 Max was a tournament format, in order to win you would have to have 3 fights in one night. This is, in my opinion, one of the hardest things you can do in combat sport. Because of this format, a fighter's tactics may change. You want to avoid sustaining damage as much as possible so you can be fresher in later bouts. The key to winning in a tournament format is finding a balance between energy conservation and maintaining enough output to still win. Buakaw started his match with John Wayne Parr as most Thais would, with almost everything coming off of the lead leg. By being light on the front foot, he was able to counter quickly with either a push kick or left kick to the body, scoring points and maintaining range, avoiding the boxing of Wayne Parr, who was a known heavy hitter. The K-1 at this point were allowing limited clinch. This enabled Buakaw to use unbalancing and holding knees to score points, and, what we will see in his later fights, sweeps. His goal against Wayne Parr was to try and be all the way out of range to score kicks, or all the way in, smothering Wayne Parr's boxing. Because JWP had a Muay Thai background, he was well versed in the clinch and not out of his element, but it wasn't where he wanted to be, which is that mid-range to land his powerful boxing.
はい、どうぞ。赤コーナーのですね、ブアカオサイドなんですが、やはりパンチに気をつけろということですね。先ほど受けましたけれども、しっかりやっぱりさあメリハリをつけていこうという赤コーナーからは小笠ですかね。はい、ファーサイドです。はい、目から腹に赤くなっているんですが、落ち着いた表情をして少し。
谷川さん、このブアカオ選手はあれですか、タイのライト級のチャンピオンだと聞いてるんですけど。そうですね。
まあ5月の20日の試合では62キロで戦ってますからね。
試合でしょうね。
ですよね。さあ小比類巻と戦うのはこの2人のうちのどちらか。準々決勝の第2試合ファイナルラウンドを迎えました。左のミドル
パンチが来ると思いますよ。
そうですよね。
Buakaw would use combinations like right low kick straight into a left body kick, also doubling up his kicks to rack up points. Both of these tactics make it difficult for the opponent to block, which helps save the shins when landing kicks, very important in a tournament. Wayne Parr looked visibly frustrated at times, sometimes punching whilst tied up in a clinch, but he pushed the action the entire fight. How this fight was scored a draw, I'm not sure. The judging is one of the more memorable things to come from the 2004 K-1 Max.
準々決勝第2試合は延長戦になりました。エクストララウンド。さあ最初からプレッシャーをかけていきます。上演半分。小比類巻と相手は一体どちらか。右のさあブアカオはなかなか蹴りが出せない。右のミドル。上演選手気持ち入ってます。そうですね。さあ上演が前にプレッシャーをかけていきますがブアカオのミドル。
ありますから、それがやっぱり見ちゃうんですよね。
左のミドル。
右ですよ。
さあしかし上演パーがやはりプレッシャー。ワッツが入った。顔面を捉えた。ブアカオ大丈夫か。しかし対戦やって。エクストララウンド小比類巻と戦うのはどちらか。
Wayne Parr fought admirably, no doubt spurred on by the thought of some potentially life-changing prize money if he were to win the tournament. Scarcely seen financial reward and stardom for a Muay Thai fighter, but Buakaw was just a finely tuned machine and near perfect at this point in his career.
パンチに対して蹴りを返してくる。
あれでも勝ったと思ったんですけど。
ですよね。しかし22歳若い力がこの日本のジョン・ウェインも手を出して腕を粉砕しようかというこのブアカオのキック。延長戦に入っているエクストララウンド、残り時間がない。さあ小比類巻と戦うのはどちらか。タイトルをかけるブアカオ、最初の前半に意地を出した。この試合の勝者が決まります。準々決勝第2試合。
After a tough 4-round fight with Wayne Parr, Buakaw had secured his spot in the semi-finals. He was now set to face Takayuki Ohiruimaki, now known as Taishin. He had beaten Mike Zambidis over 3 rounds in his previous fight, in what was an overall lackluster affair where he secured a knockdown on Zambidis, which ultimately secured him the win. Many would argue there should have been an extension round, but Buakaw wouldn't need any judges in their contest.
話し合っていました。次の対戦相手はムエタイのブア。
相手はタイ人。さあ自らタイ人を破って決勝への扉をこじ開けることができるのか。2004年
Takayuki committed a cardinal sin in the first round against Buakaw, where he caught a kick, charged forward whilst holding the leg, and threw several of his own strikes to sweep Buakaw to the floor. In Muay Thai, you aren't allowed to take more than 2 steps forward whilst holding the leg of an opponent, as ploughing, running whilst holding the caught leg of an opponent, was outlawed after an unfortunate accident in a stadium. In K-1 you were supposed to catch, strike and release the leg. This then went on to become an almost viral moment. Buakaw got pissed off and unleashed his almighty wrath upon Takayuki. He entered the Matrix and absolutely assaulted Takayuki with a merciless barrage of sweeps and knees, forcing Takayuki into submission. Whether this was a tactic to save his legs for the final, or whether it was triggered by the initial foul, only Buakaw knows, but it was awesome to watch. Buakaw had advanced to the final, already against the odds, with the likes of Albert Kraus, John Wayne Parr and Mike Zambidis going home, who, at the time, were all more widely recognised than Buakaw. Now he would have his supposed toughest test yet, Masato, the tournament superstar and hero of Japanese kickboxing. Masato had beaten tough Mongolian Jambada in the quarter-finals by decision, and in the semi-finals, Albert Kraus, again going all 3 rounds. His fight with Kraus was tough, and Masato wore the marks of battle when going into this final bout with Buakaw. Masato's eye had swollen from a clash of heads with Kraus, and they had many hard back and forth exchanges in the match. Masato appeared physically and emotionally drained backstage after this fight, with teams of people surrounding him trying to help him recover. Conversely, Buakaw seemed rejuvenated after stopping Takayuki and eager to face his next opponent to become the K-1 champion. The training Buakaw was put through at Paul Pramuk is legendary, and he became famed for his work ethic. This, in no doubt, played a part in Buakaw's extreme confidence when going into any match.
来るとブアカオ陣営は考えていた。
その傷が痛いらしい。さあ決勝のリングに向かうマサト。ムエタイ700年の歴史を背負ってブアカオポー・ブラムック。いよいよ迎えた K-1 ワールドマックス2004、人類最激戦区 K-1 黄金のミドル級、世界一を決めます。マサトかブラムックか。
In this fight, both got off to a nervous start. They had a quickness to the rhythm in which they were moving, slightly jittery, especially for Buakaw, who doesn't usually bounce around much, but this is understandable given the stakes of the bout. After the initial nervous energy had surpassed, Buakaw started to find a home for his teeth, and his timing fell into place. Buakaw is like a snowball rolling down a mountain. Once he gets going, he gathers speed and momentum, growing more in confidence, and becomes harder and harder to stop. This bout was yet another masterclass, with Buakaw showcasing the true dominance of a strong Muay Thai style.
Masato のローキック、踏み込んできた、ハイキック、膝フック、膝、マサト交代、10秒となろうとしております。ローキックはまずのガッツ、ミドルキック、これはガードしている。第1ラウンド、足技の雨あられ、ムエタイ戦士ブラムック、マサトを第1ラウンドは圧倒しています。なるほど、そのパンチ、どこでどのタイミングで捉えるか。はいからフック、ブアカーを、いいパンチ、いいパンチ、さっきしたんでチャンスありますよ。膝、右スターアナウンサー、マサトサイド、サーブしまった、ローダウンスリップ、ブアカーのローキック、そういったシーンです。マサトアナウンサー、ブアカーのサイド、さあ、ややこう笑顔さえ見えるようなこのブアカーを余裕が伺えております。ローキック、ミドルキック、ブアカーの足技、ムエタイのしなる足技。
Even with the elimination of Muay Thai techniques such as elbows, certain sweeps, and limited grappling, the fundamentals of Muay Thai are so good, and not many demonstrate this more beautifully as Buakaw did in this fight. He would transition from punches to kicks to knees so seamlessly. With such technical proficiency, it must have been a sight to behold for the fans that night. Watching their hero, Masato, get destroyed in such a dominant fashion must have been overwhelming. Masato was no match for Buakaw this night, and Buakaw brought the power of Muay Thai to the forefront of kickboxing. With K-1 previously being about big hitting heavyweights, of which there are no Thais of any decent level at that size, the Dutch were the dominant force and powerhouses in the sport. But now, the lighter weights were being exposed to the true power of Muay Thai. How this fight got scored a draw, I will never understand. It shows the star power of Masato and how much the K-1 wanted and needed him to win. He was their poster boy. The sad part though, for me, is that he was taking a horrendous beating in what was his 9th round of the night. Clearly wanted no more. To send him out for an extra round to endure more punishment, in my opinion, did him no justice. But credit where credit is due. Masato showed the spirit of Japan by taking his licks like a true samurai warrior, and for that, he will always have my respect.
ンした。さあ2分が経過いたしました。今日は2ラウンド用意されてはいます。さあしかし下が伸ばす。大きく赤く腫れ上がっているマサトの両面。明らかに序盤の戦いとはマサトの目はそのカウンター狙いか。その膝を変えて、そして勝つことができるかマサト。左に乗るブラカーをしなるような鞭のようなこの見え体の蹴り。右ハイ食らっているマサト。食らっているキラピ踏み込んだ。10秒を切った。22歳ムエタイ選手ブアカーを相手に苦しむマサト。ここで終了。判定に入ります。マサトかブアカーをか。
And that was the moment history was made, and we saw the birth of a superstar, a man that has transcended the sport and become a cultural icon and representation of Thailand. A man from a little known province in rural Thailand who wasn't considered the best in his sport in his home country, and who beat the odds to becoming a global success. Anyone that watches a combat sport will know of the White Lotus, Buakaw. Once again, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe and share.